For a documentary like this, I think it is best to be broken down into 3 parts. Part 1, who are camp leaders in Small Earth Incorporated? Part 2, a COVID-19 infused reality check for camp leaders. Part 3, my conclusion, and what now? Throughout these segments in this documentary as a whole, I aim to display the poor service that I and many others have received from this company during one of the biggest global incidents in recent history. Camp leaders are one of the many work and travel experience opportunities owned by Smaller Earth Incorporated, with the company providing opportunities throughout the US, Canada, China, Europe and New Zealand. Camp leaders are one of the many organisations providing those interested in working at summer camps in the US the opportunity to do so, as they state on their website, Summer Camp Made Easy. The process overall was fairly simple. I'll give a brief explanation as to how it works. Step 1, apply to the programme and pay your initial fees. Step 2, develop an application and begin the interview process. And Step 3, get hired, get your visa and go to America. Throughout this process, camp leaders work as a middleman, connecting you to various camps throughout the US with the intention of gaining employment. In regard to my experience, this had cost me £690, not accounting for the third-party costs that I had to pay to acquire medical documents, police checks, etc. For the purpose of this documentary, those extra costs are not important. I will state at the time, the explanation as to the costs are fairly vague and did not help later on when I began to try and fight for a reasonable refund. I found the company to be fairly helpful throughout, however I did not find that they really did all that much. Simply reassured me when I wasn't offered a place by a camp and told me to keep my head up. Let it be known, you can actually apply to these camps on your own. Organisations such as camp leaders simply make the process easier. After 3 interviews and a multitude of Skype calls, in December of 2019 I was placed and confirmed to be working at Camp AYF Minnewanka in Michigan. I would leave on June 6th of 2020 and be returning to Edinburgh in late August.
The coronavirus, you know that, right?
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
With immediate effect, I've taken the decision to advise British nationals against non-essential travel globally.
The coronavirus outbreak has put international travel to a standstill. As the pandemic began to develop, myself and others had become wary of the situation and had already begun to feel that travelling to the country quickly becoming the most infected in the world may not have been the best idea. As other companies like that of camp leaders began to inform campers of next steps, there was silence from the company as a whole. And as of April 16th, 2020, my camp in Michigan had contacted me to announce their cancellation of summer programming. AYF Minnewanka and specifically my contact Tyler were great. However, from this point, problems with camp leaders began to arise. The company had promised to contact all of those affected by the outbreak. This is simply contact I had never received. After reaching out to them myself, I was finally informed of next steps. A one-off deferral to the next year, a choice we were not offering to everyone at the time, a refund based on the review of my services received, or the option to stick it out and be placed at a new camp, and chance that things might turn around. As others like me had felt, was it really worth trying to get placed elsewhere? A deferral was off the cards. The only option I had was to see what I could get from a refund, resulting in an initial offer of a mere £130, with 70 of it being a surcharge I had incurred. Realistically, an offer of £50. Through a correspondence that carried on over a month, camp leaders were adamant on me only being due a fifth of my initial payment, according to them, due to a bunch of administration services and visa support. As mentioned earlier, this vague explanation was simply not enough. The whole situation had quickly become sour. How could a company which prides itself on respect for all those who go through them now be refusing to cooperate with their customers? In a now redacted statement, their website mentions, when you go with the leaders, you go to summer camp. We're so confident we can find you a place at summer camp that if for any reason we can't, we'll refund your programme fees in full. Regardless of whether it was in their power, camp leaders and Small Earth Incorporated have failed to get their consumers to summer camp, and therefore are due everyone their programme fees in full. My dissatisfaction resulted in the creation of an online petition, which I'd shared with fellow campers. This is something that others going through the company seemingly resonated with. It has had its impact, as camp leaders responded in a blog post and opened up deferral opportunities to all impacted, regardless of their current scenario. However, refund options were still on a partial basis. Only as of early June did camp leaders finally announce that the programmes were not going to go ahead, a stark contrast to the considerably delusional tone that they had shown for the months prior. As can be seen in the blog posts, the organisation were still advising for people to put payments down. Retrospectively, this is now money that people are unable to get back. A lack of respect has been shown, and has ultimately changed my perspective on a company I had valued from the beginning of my involvement with them.
We'll talk now to Ben Falconer. He's a student at Edinburgh Napier University.
As of early June, I was provided a revised refund, a new offer of £230. Whilst I was still disappointed, my contact was furloughed and the money was instantly placed into my account. The revised refund was barely justified, and I had still not received the proper financial breakdown after multiple requests. As of July 8th, I now know this is not an isolated problem, as all areas of Smaller Earth's business are bringing up similar complaints. Originally, I was hesitant to look into legal action. However, after my conversation on BBC Radio 4, I have been advised that people like myself definitely have a case. To those interested, I definitely recommend that you begin inquiring. I do realise in current circumstances that realistically this is not an important issue. However, due to the nature of their demographic, Smaller Earth are showing a lack of respect to young people who have saved up for this experience. Going forward, the petition continues to grow and shines a light on this issue. If you have not already, I ask that you sign. As time goes, other companies have shown good faith by refunding all campers. Camp Leaders now stand alone as a company prioritising profit over respect to their customers, resulting in a damage to their reputation that they may not have expected. To conclude, Camp Leaders are part of an organisation that are evidently difficult to hold accountable, but at times like this have to be called out for their problematic ways of handling this situation.